I realized when I find my right people, it's like complete magic. You just fall the way I am with my friends, the way with my husband. You can have these deep connections with people on a professional or intentional career level. That's possible, but you have to find your right people and people who speak your language. And you're not going to be that person for everyone. So I was literally speaking to the wrong audience. So doing the wrong thing, speaking to the wrong audience. So let's shift and cast a wider net and talk to more people and see what comes. And so much great stuff has come since that. It's crazy to use this word in a career sense, playful. I have just had a joy of just reaching out and talking to so many different people where majority of them, it's like, oh, now I'm having people speaking my same language that are joyful, and there's playfulness and humor in what they do, because what they're trying to do is create positive environments, and it's effortless versus, oh, I feel like I need to say a certain something to fit your mold and like this structured career, sometimes like in a more traditional career path. So they have been really fun conversations.
Hi, I'm Blake Schofield, founder and CEO of The Bridge to Fulfillment, mom to 3, USA Today Top 10 professional coach, and former corporate executive who got tired of sacrificing my life for a comfortable paycheck. My mission is to expand women's perspectives and empower them to achieve greater impact at home and work without sacrifice. This is The Bridge to Fulfillment. All right. Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Bridge to Fulfillment. I could not be just more overjoyed to have my client, Lindsey, on the podcast today. She's had such an incredible journey, and she has an amazing ability to inspire people. And I have no doubt that if you listen in today, that you will be inspired by her story to perhaps see what's possible for you in ways you haven't before. So with that said, welcome to the podcast, Lindsey. So happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and those very kind words and introduction. I'm always in awe of how you bring out the best of me and everyone in this program, and just how we're all just connected. And I'm just so excited to be here.
Thank you. All right, lady, why don't we dive in? Because I have a feeling we're going to have a hard time keeping within the time frame that we have allotted, because there's always so much to talk about. But can you share a little bit about what was going on in your life when we connected? What was happening?
Sure. I want to tell a funny story that even came a little bit before we connected, and how I think you're magical. Because it was like spring 2022. I was preparing to get married. It was an exciting time. We'll get into this later, but I've always loved building out experiences and being that person who has had this childlike wonder and creating fantasies into reality and blending them together. So I was, finding joy in that, but I was feeling very stuck in my career. Like I felt like I was having two alter ego lives, and I knew I would have to leave my wedding fantasy life and deal with my real life eventually. So I was doing things here and there. I was like, well, I've always benefited from one-on-one tutoring and coaching. So I reach out to a few career coaches, don't hear anything back. Out of the blue, I get a message from you being like, hey, I found your background interesting. I actually work with women to find their alignment. And I actually ignore the first message from you, or I'm busy, whatnot. And then you, for some reason, decide to message me back again, being like, hey, did you get my first message? Just by the way, here I am. And you're like, I'm this time, I'm like, this is too funny. Let me respond. And I did, saying like, hey, but I'm getting married. Let's connect in June. And I did. And that's when we got things rolling. And I just felt really, when we got on the phone, it was obviously I was a little nervous because in the career space, I've always felt like I was judged and I just never fit in. And it was just so unfortunate because I'm a person who gives their all. And I felt like I could figure anything out. I had this capability and I care. I care so much. And then when it came to the interview process or the things that I really wanted, I just felt like I was always falling short. And I was like, why don't they see how much I want it? What am I not getting right? And it was just really frustrating. But I still made things happen, had a great career, building out assortments from scratch, very high touch, willing to go the extra mile, do the dirty work that no one wants to do, and have created things that didn't exist. And in itself, that's an amazing skill to have. But I just didn't know, it wasn't fitting my dream job. And I was like, well, Blake's had my dream job. Maybe she can help me figure out how to fit this mold. And you said, well, you're going to go through my process. And at that point, I decided to trust in a way. The only question I had going was from my own insecurity. I was like, what if we don't mesh? And that was from the insecurities that I held of not meshing in the career world. And I was like, well, what if we don't mesh? And this is a big investment. So that was, I feel like, the only question I really asked you. And you were saying, if you put in the work and you show up, good things will happen. And I, as someone who has, I guess, not realized that she has a good gut and through this program I jumped in. And I think that kind of sums up the beginning of my journey.
Yeah. So you have a background, right, in retail and sort of in this manufacturing and merchandising world. I remember so many of our earlier conversations, which you said to me, I've been very successful in my career, but I don't feel like I've achieved the success that I deserve and that I want. And there was a gap sitting there for you of like, why can't I get to the place I want to get to? And to your point, sort of this duality of I'm doing this stuff on the side that makes me really passionate and I don't feel the same about my current career. And I'm just sort of stuck in this place. And I remember you saying, well, I just want to do what you did. And yes, you are right. I said, let's go through the process because I can't tell you the number of women who come to me thinking that they want or need one thing, only to find out when you really peel back the layers that maybe that's it, but many times it's not. And I think that was sort of the circumstance for you as well. As we went through this process, is like I've been fighting and beating a dead horse. Like, this is the path I need to be on. And often I say when you're finding that you're not getting the results that you want, or it feels hard, you feel like you have to hustle or you have to grind to create something, that's usually a sign of misalignment. What do you know about that now that you understand what your gifts are versus what you were trying to do?
That, yes, I was completely misaligned. And I think the best way that I describe it to people, and you've helped me, it was one of the biggest aha moments, is sometimes I wish I could have video on this, because being a merchandise buyer, we create this experience for someone to buy this product or have this product that makes an impact on them. But it's only a little sliver of their lives and of that person. It was like you were saying, you have these gifts and you thought you could only apply them to, I'm putting my hands up and it's this little sliver, but you have the possibility, because my secret sauce is someone who sees a concept or the possibility of an idea or concept, creates a clear and creative vision and brings it to life. So going beyond the product, you could, your gifts expand it to, I'm putting my hands much wider, goes much wider. You can impact whole environments. You can tell that story visually through multiple objects or products, but they're all that gift of making something from nothing into something. That's a great gift, but that's not merchandising. A, I was in this little sliver, and B, I don't want to say a square because I'm definitely not a square, this multifaceted puzzle piece trying to actually probably fit into a round hole. And that's why I wasn't fitting. It was my skills were not, and what my natural abilities weren't aligned with that world. And not only that, it was, you made it okay for me to say, it's okay not to connect with all people. Because I realize when I find my right people, it's like complete magic. You just fall the way I am with my friends, way with my husband. You can have these deep connections with people on a professional or intentional career level. That's possible, but you have to find your right people and people who speak your language. And you're not going to be that person for everyone. So I was literally speaking to the wrong audience. So doing the wrong thing, speaking to the wrong audience. So let's shift and cast a wider net and talk to more people and see what comes. And so much great stuff has come since that.
I can't wait to dive into that. But I love what you just said, because I think so. Like, it gave me sort of shivers up my spine, because there's such truth to that. And I don't think we've really shared this on the podcast before. I talk about defining your criteria. I talk about understanding your natural way of working. But what you just said is incredibly powerful. And so I want to stop for a minute, make sure everybody understood and really got what you're saying. I spent 18 years in corporate America, and I was raised in a way to believe that work is work and personal life is personal life, and you keep them separate and you don't blend them, right? And I think that the last 20 years, a lot has shifted in the workplace, where there are a lot more forward-thinking companies that are saying, bring your authentic self to work. And I think there's value in that. And I think some companies get it done well, and many still have a lot of opportunity. But this idea and understanding of you can be the same person. I often say how you do one thing is how you do everything. You can be the same person at work that you are in your personal life, right? Are you going to give a lot of personal details about things that are maybe not appropriate in the workspace? No, but you can genuinely show up every day as who you are, with the same level of passion, the same way of working, not having to force yourself to be somebody different or work in a way that's different than what you naturally would. And so when you said, I realized that I'm not going to be for everybody, but for the right people, right? It's like home. And I can feel that in my friendships, but I can also feel that in my work environment. And I just think that's so meaningful, because so few people even understand that's possible. And it took me a really long journey to understand that. My personal journey through 5 different retailers. There was one company of the 5 that I worked at. And those of you who've listened to me long enough would know which one that is. That there was one company where I felt like these are my people, and I understand, and I feel supported, and I feel like I have real genuine relationships with those people. And it was really hard to leave that organization, even though I knew it was what I needed to do, because it was the first time in my career I felt like people kind of got me and I got them. And I think it's extremely rare for people to understand it's totally possible. Companies are like people. They have different personalities. They have different cultures. And if you find yourself constantly feeling like you have to put on a mask, or struggling, or feeling like you can't show up and be who you really are, those are signs of misalignment. And it is possible to be at a place where you can go work with people where it's easy, where the conversations are fun, where you're inspired to talk to people, where you are excited to learn together. Those are signs that you're in alignment. And I think that your lesson and your learning on that has been huge. So let's talk about, I want to talk about that, but before we do, I'm going to write it down so I don't forget about, kind of what's happened. But I'd like to go a little bit more in sequence, because I think it's important for people to understand, right? You came in, you had this experience, you had been very successful, but frustrated, feeling like you're not really optimizing or really maximizing your potential. And you came to me because you said you have a similar background and I want to do the thing you did. And I was like, let's actually see what's aligned and misaligned. And then we started to uncover that there were a lot of things that were misaligned. Through that journey, a lot of things came up for you. I often say this is both an emotional and a tactical journey. What were some of the things that you now understand were limiting beliefs, or things that had occurred, patterns in your life that were keeping you stuck, that you now see differently?
I think you know what's coming. And it's something we continually go back on, and it's a personal theme for me. And hopefully I'm not alone. Usually I'm not. When I was a child, I had some learning disabilities, or, late development. I didn't speak until 2 or 3. My parents put me in a special preschool. I spent a lot of my formative childhood years going to speech therapy, being taken out of class to do special reading. Like, I remember working with a tutor, doing hooked on phonics, every type of speech development therapy because I was told you have trouble speaking. Like some childhood memory that is deeply embedded in me is being told to spit it out. So I thought for the longest time I could not communicate. And I would, throughout my whole educational experience and even my career experience, I did everything I could to sometimes minimize conversation when it had to be in a certain formulated way. I would do all the work so the work would show for itself. I would have to pump myself up to, speak to a manager about a small little thing. And even some of my personal relationships, if we, had conflict, I'd be the flexible one. It felt hard to have all these built up feelings and, things. When you don't speak a lot, you internalize a lot. So little did I know that all that stuff that I was internalizing needed to come out and would be beneficial to come out. And the internalizing is like you formulate something there. So at the beginning of the program, I was like, I've been told I'm not a good communicator. So hopefully we'll get to the heart of the problem, but it might take a second for me. And lo and behold, somewhat like the first exercises we did, if you will, that required heavy writing for clarity and criteria, because I had the environment to get centered and you just said there was no restraints. Come as you are. I just really let it out. And you know what? You told me that I was one of the only people that you did not need to go back and ask for additional information on or wanted to go deeper. I had provided that detail. It came from me. So the ability to triumph over that big limiting belief that I couldn't communicate, it's lifted so much in me. Just even that first step, being able to show up who you are and work through, there will always be room to work through communication and just releasing. If you say something and put it out there, even if it's just with journaling and stuff, it has so much power. So the fact that I've had this platform or, this program to work through that led to personal development that has limited me for 30 plus years. So in that itself, the program pays for itself.
Yeah, I often say through this process consistently, my clients say that they become better communicators. But what I love about what you're sharing, and I think it's true of every woman that comes through this program, is that you uncover things that you thought were true of yourself that were actually the thing that was the barrier in the way. And what's been really beautiful is to be able to watch you now own your voice and what you have to share. And I watched you move from somebody who was very talented, but spent a lot of time beating herself up and spent a lot of time feeling frustrated that she wasn't achieving what she wanted to achieve. And I think at times taking circumstances and maybe feeling like you weren't good enough, to somebody who really understands and embraces what is special and unique about her and shows up from a place of service every single day. You have such a beautiful gift of being able to connect ideas and people and relationships and businesses, and to watch that shift happen where you just literally are showing up in service every week as you're learning about yourself. You're showing up in service to the other women in this program. And I've watched that impact happen across every single person that you've touched. Often, right, the feedback is that you bring so much light and joy to everyone around you. And I think that for most of your life, that light and joy was really dimmed because of these belief systems and because of the misalignment. And so for me, one of the big reasons why I wanted you to come and share is to celebrate that journey. Because I get asked sometimes, like, what if I don't have a secret sauce? That's baloney. Everyone has one. It's impossible not to. But we can't see the label from inside the bottle. And when you can remove the things standing in your way from really being who you are, it's such a beautiful thing. And I have watched that like transformation. It's almost like a caterpillar into a butterfly with you. And it just, I think for so many years, you felt like maybe I wasn't seen or appreciated. And then to your point, now to have your people, and you found your people through your job search and your networking, but you've also found your people through this program. And that has been such a beautiful thing to watch, because I know that will be something you will take and you will be able to shine your light and you will be able to make impact in a way that's really meaningful to you and to the people around you, because you are aligned and you understand now who you are, where you belong, and the value that you add.
No, 100%. It's been amazing. And certain phone calls, there are people with such different backgrounds and different point of views, but you do it so much more eloquently and can really see them and figure out their alignment. But you realize we're all dealing with the human condition, and the fact that we're challenge ourselves to combat that or learn to deal with that, and seeing little lights in each of them like just pumps me up a little bit more each time. I'm like, oh my gosh. There's a person in the program who I've always liked her point of view, because she's like, oh, I've always had confidence, but it needs to be dimmed a little bit. And it's like we're foils of each other, but still dealing with the same issue. And it's amazing what different point of views can really change your worldview and actually help you realize, oh, we're all dealing with it, the same stem.
100%. Let's talk a little bit about, we've talked about, a lot about your personal journey and how this has impacted you. Let's talk a little bit about how it's impacted your job search and your career trajectory and really where you're headed. So you want to share a little bit about what you've kind of gone through in this process and where you're at now?
A big thing that I discovered, and I know I spoke to it earlier, was I love creative ideation to execution, and that you helped discover like, I am a creative. You aren't someone who should be in typical corporate like analytics, and I get a little overwhelmed with strategy. I see a potential in something or, one aspect at it, and I want to action it and I want to test it and then keep testing and finessing. So figuring out where I can show up, and it is a high touch industry. It is a tangible industry. So where we realized was that from my product experience can be transferable to experiential marketing, where it's really about executing and finding a reference point and figuring out what's the intent of that client, what reference point do we want to use to make something come to life? And then the gold is what you execute. If I can just be in that process over and over, that's going to bring me so much happiness. That is where I can really finesse my skills, because I've done that, but I've also had to handle so much more, but that's not where I'm happy. It's great that I can handle and do those things, inventory, analytics, operational plans, those stuff I'm sure I'm going to use that in my wheelhouse. I had a conversation the other day about shipping with someone in the experiential world. And they're like, yeah, we're dealing with that, a lot of that. And I was like, oh yeah, like I can help out. I've been on the phone with Port Authority, and like I know someone at FedEx, and I've worked out all those shipping plans, and there's a creativity in that too. So, but bringing that into that process. So once again, that field is large, but it's a place where I'm first like, it's crazy to use this word in a career sense, playful. I have just had a joy of just reaching out and talking to so many different people, where majority of them, it's like, oh, now I'm having people speaking my same language that are joyful, and there's playfulness and humor in what they do, because what they're trying to do is create positive environments and create something beautiful. And I think we really see each other in a short amount of time, even if it's the small talk. Oh, we're talking about your scarf, and then a whole shopping journey of that. And it's because you're a new mom. You haven't had a chance to like change clothing. And oh, I worked at a parenting startup. It all builds on each other, and it's effortless versus, oh, I feel like I need to say a certain something to fit your mold and like this structured career. Sometimes like in a more traditional career path, they're like, okay, this is how the interview is going to be set up. It hasn't been like that. So they have been really fun conversations, and they've sparked a lot of brainstorming, and I can see myself in so many different places. Oh, that aligns so well with my secret sauce. I know how to win now. It's so deeply aligned with me, and it's showing up in so many places. It's like, oh, I have like this little tree that I can pluck from now. I don't have to wait for this one thing to sprout and hope it does. I'm doing the picking, and it's really exciting. And I'm showing up super curiously, and people are being very open, and they're like, that's really cool that you're open to all these things and you're curious. That's awesome. And they're seeing that. So I'm having a lot of fun, which I never thought I would put career and fun in the same sentence with me. And it's still a process. Don't get me wrong, I'm having fun, but I understand it is scary when the outcome is unknown. But if we get comfortable with that and not attached to a certain outcome, then we can see what comes up and what's right. So getting comfortable with that, I think it's really been a process for me. Throughout this journey, I've had to rely on Blake to get over these blocks. I've had multiple of them where an old employer hadn't talked to me in 3 years, and suddenly it was a sudden temptation. Out of all these times when you come to me when I'm trying to work on myself. And I was tempted, and I was trying to, once again, like, well, maybe I'll fit into this mold again. But because I had, this program to lean on, and these conversations were starting to ramp up, it was like, let's hold out. You are worth something coming to you and shining its light on you. So that's the process that I'm in. And once again, scary, but exciting and fun. And I think coming in with that energy, only good things will come. And I'm working really hard to believe in that and work on that. And it's not easy every day.
Yeah. One of the things you said that I really loved was, I understand my secret sauce skills and now I know how to win. That's so powerful. Because when you understand who you are and the circumstances of which you will always win, because it's your blueprint for success, to your point, you can begin to have fun. You can begin to expand possibilities, and you get outside of the box. And then you have this confidence and this ability to understand, I know in this circumstance, I'm going to win, right? Mm-hmm. And then I get to choose. And I think that's such a beautiful thing that, again, it's part of understanding and standing your value, and why this stuff is so fundamental to being fulfilled. Because you were able to turn down a job that in the past you probably would have taken, and you would have repeated this same exact cycle. But instead, you're in the middle, and you've been having so much momentum and progress in your networking. So many doors coming open, so many people receptive to what you have to say. And I just love it, because it's literally like every week I'm like, how did you find this person? And this person's connected with all these other people, and then they're opening doors for you. You have a number of interviews kind of in the process right now. And I think it's important to share, right, that it's a journey. Timing looks different for everybody. But at the end of the day, right, are you gathering the skills and the things that you need? This is not just about moving you to the right next job. It's about fundamentally shifting your perspective, removing the stuff that's in your way, and helping you really understand who you are, so you can put yourself in a position to win, where it is fun and it is creative and you do enjoy it and you are passionate, excited to get up every day. And one of the things that I love so much about who you are, just at the heart, is you are joy, and you are curiosity, and you are creativity, and you are somebody who just gets it done. And that now emanates about everything that you do, because you now understand it, you own it, and you show up that way. And as a result, all of these amazing things are sort of showing up for you. And I think learning how to be detached from the outcome and understanding some of this journey, right? It does require partnership. It requires somebody to stand in it with you, to help you see and understand that, and help you move past those barriers. But then when you do, it gets a lot easier. And so while you're still in this journey of your job search, I have zero doubt in my mind that at least one, if not more, amazing opportunities will come your way. And that those things will be things that you got to choose with intention.
100%. And I think this is only building the foundation. I thought there was one way, and I'm going to fit into this hole of a merchandiser buyer, and then I'll try to squeeze in a little bit further to DMM, and squeeze and be smaller and smaller to fit this certain mold. And now instead, this world, it's like, oh yes, next week I'm working on a very large scale, very notable event at a huge art museum in New York City. Celebrities, some of the richest, most talented, famous people in the world are going to be attending this event. And this company, because I was able to connect with someone who's works with someone at this company and communicate my transferable production skills, they are giving me the opportunity to work on this event. And I'm so excited. And that's just like a starting point. And I'm connecting with more people, and I might be working on holiday events. And these people might want me for future events. So it's building this whole outlet. And at the same time, I'm not giving up on products. I'm also looking in the world of promotional products used for marketing sense, where the product and the execution of it is the bread and butter. And because I have a retail background, it is like a slam dunk. And it's just a matter of finding the right fit and having those conversations. And from there, this world and these career paths, they lend itself really well to entrepreneurship and leading your own path. And one of my goals and one of the things I wrote was I want to be able to show up in the career force when I want and as long as I want. So I'm building a foundation now that I will build to that goal that I want. I said in the beginning, I can build the career that I want. And we paved together this avenue for me to take that, which was not possible before.
It makes me super happy because you're exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're meant to do. And there's a piece about that I know because I didn't have it for 18 years of my career. There's a piece when you are aligned and you know you're doing what you are meant to do. And so thank you for sharing just a little bit of your journey to help inspire people, right, who do feel like they're trying to fit into the box and don't understand there's infinite possibility. There's infinite possibility when you truly understand who you are, what your secret sauce skills are, and where you best fit, that you can create the biggest impact in a way that allows you to be you. So Lindsey, I know our time is almost up. I told you it would go fast.
No, there's people, readers, listeners out there, I feel like we only touched the surface on what I learned. And there's a very layered approach here, and you learn new, skills or ways to live more intentional life. And these little, I will call them vignette stories, build upon each other. And we did not have a chance to get up to those, but
I will open it up to you and just say, is there anything I didn't ask you I should have, or anything you really just want to share from your heart before we finish up?
I'm looking at some notes that I took before because I was reflecting on my journey, and we hit a lot of the big things. And one of the things that we've recently learned, and you keep bringing it up, that I want to bring up, is if it comes easy to you, that means it's hard for someone else. And that means you should lean into it. And you shouldn't sell yourself short because it's easy. Because if something comes easy, there's always going to be room to finesse that skill and grow. Like Olympians, people who are good at acting, they're the people who make it. Yeah, they probably have a natural skill for it, but they're still working at their craft. It's just great that if you find something on that, hold on to it and finesse it. And that's totally what I'm doing. So if you have the opportunity to figure out what's easy for you or know it, lean into it, figure out how to finesse it. And then another thing that I want to say, especially even to myself, is that success and being a work in progress are not mutually exclusive. I have found so much personal success and professional success in this program, but it's, once again, not attached to a certain outcome. I have a long way to go. And even when I find my next opportunity or opportunities, there's going to be a lifetime of working towards living life in intention. It does take commitment. It does take work, but it will eventually come natural. And once again, you'll find something easy and it'll feel good, but it's still work and it's still a process. So enjoy that process, learning that process. I mean, I want to let you tell the story, but I think the story that I keep having in my head is the two people who are built like growing trees.
Oh, yeah. It's one of my favorite stories from one of my mentors, Nick Peterson. He talks about, that there's two people that were growing trees. There's the process-oriented tree grower, and there's the goal-oriented tree grower. And I'll share this with you guys. It's one of my favorites. So thanks for bringing it up, Lindsey.
It's mine too.
And ask you to think about which one you are. And so there's two people growing trees in a forest. The goal-oriented person says, I want 10 feet tall trees. And every day he gets up and he goes and he waters the tree and he looks at the tree and he's like, oh, the tree didn't grow very fast today. And every single day he looks at the gap between where he is and where he wants to be. And he's disappointed because he's not really going to be happy until he has 10 feet tall trees. But the process-oriented tree grower, he just cares about growing trees. He loves growing trees. So every day he goes to water his tree and he looks and he says, look, my tree grew. I'm successful. Awesome. Two very different experiences on a day-to-day basis. I'd ask you to think about which one you are. I can tell you that I was the goal-oriented tree grower for most of my life. Well, guess what happens? A huge storm comes, electricity comes, and boom, there's a forest fire and all of the trees are burned down to the ground. Well, the process-oriented tree grower gets up and says, I get to do what I love. And he replants the trees and every day he waters them and every day the tree grows, he wins. The goal-oriented tree grower goes, my trees were 2 feet tall and now they're completely destroyed. There's no way I'm ever going to get 10 feet tall trees. I just should give up. I think most of us go through life and we've been taught to focus on the outcome. We've been taught to focus on the 10 feet tall tree. And we spend most of our lives frustrated and disappointed that we haven't gotten where we want to get to. And we'll eventually achieve that goal and we'll have a moment of happiness, maybe a week or two of celebration. And then we're off to find a new goal. But if you can become the person that understands and loves and appreciates the process, every single day in life you win. So thank you for joining us today on the Bridge to Fulfillment. And thank you, Lindsey, for sharing your journey, for being vulnerable. And I have no doubt for inspiring those that listen today to understand some personal shifts and some possibility and opportunity for their life that maybe they haven't seen before.
Thanks for joining me today. Rather than hope the grass will be greener, identify what the right next step is. We can help you do just that. Get clarity on where you are in your journey to career fulfillment, where you're headed, optimal paths to get there, and the right next step to take. Start your complimentary personalized career fulfillment plan at www.thebridgetofulfillment.com/plan. Again, you can get your personalized career fulfillment plan at thebridgetofulfillment.com/plan. Thanks again for joining and have a great week ahead.